Hey, hon. I'm on the Royal Mile now. Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm also on the Royal Mile, just down by the palace.
Ah.
Hello my peeps, this is Kat, aka Kakibot, and I'm welcoming you to another episode of my Edinburgh neighborhood guides. And today I'm gonna bring you to Royal Mile. And I know what you're thinking, this is a very central touristy area, you've seen it all, it's just 1.81 kilometer, yes that is a Scots mile, not an English one, of tourist traps. But if you truly believe that, then this video will prove you wrong, because there are so many tiny little hidden gems in this area. Royal Mile, this old road, is just this veritable cabinet of curiosities, besprinkled with secret closes and gardens, and one of them we actually got married at. So if you're a fan of me and Simon, then you probably already know about at least one of them. Yes, they are quite easy to miss, so this video is here to help you not do that, to come to Royal Mile prepared. But also don't forget that this series is not only for visitors, this series is also for people who are looking for the perfect place to live in Edinburgh. And you might think Royal Mile, that's just the centrist of the centers of Edinburgh. That's probably not the most affordable place to live, right? But surprisingly, this is an address that's pretty realistic for especially students, people who don't need to live somewhere quiet. And later today I will be talking to one of my friends who actually spent a couple of years living just on Royal Mile. She's gonna tell us what the ups and downs of that experience were, and it's gonna help you make your decision whether or not this might be the area for you if you're moving around or into Edinburgh. So now, why don't you keep watching and follow me as I work my way up Royal Mile and show you all my favorite bits. We're gonna start at the bottom of the mile, where you can find a whole bunch of points of interest. We're gonna start by visiting the one that is free, the Scottish Parliament. People have mixed feelings about the architecture, but I think that at this point, it has really grown on most people. I recommend popping in either for a guided tour or a self-guided quick visit. You're gonna learn about Scotland's politics and what the Parliament's powers entail. And most importantly, you will find out what the architect meant by all those mind-bogglingly angular shapes. Of course, the traditional starting point of the Royal Mile is the Holyrood Palace. It costs about £20 to visit, and you should give it a go if you're a fan of history. Personally, I found this to be one of the less interesting burial sites in the city, but please don't take that as a negative review. Adjacent to the palace is my first hidden gem of this neighborhood, the Physic Garden, a relatively newly opened garden area filled with plants and herbs and seasonally also beautiful wildflowers surrounding Queen Mary's bathhouse. It's wonderful for a little picnic or a cottagecore read. As we start working our way up the mile, I recommend popping into White Horse Close, a hidden away residential area which is a cute little photo spot. First food recommendation, Clarinda's Tea Room. This no reservation cafe is steeped in history and covered in charming tchotchke, and I love their daily spread of cake just seductively sitting in the middle of the room. You'll also get to learn about what role Clorinda played in the life of Scotland's national poet Robert Burns. Saucy. It's affordable and homely, but gets busy very fast. You will often see people waiting outside for a seat, especially on weekends. Dunbar's close is one of the more known secrets of Royal Mile, and yet I am always surprised by how many locals don't know it exists. It's a wonderful place to relax, or have a secluded coffee or tea in the grass while Mile is congested with tour buses and weekend crowds. When you hit the Canongate Starbucks, pop down this little lane next to it. You'll find the Scottish Poetry Library. They have a little sunny terrace, and apparently you can even bring your own coffee or tea to enjoy alongside your poems. Instead of popping into Starbucks, we grabbed a brew from Santu Coffee. This is not really much of a sit-down place, but it delivers much-needed energy for the rest of our mile and a bit long climb. You will inevitably notice the beautiful church on the right side, the Canongate Kirk. The cherry trees are my favorite blossoming trees in town, absolutely exploding with pink every year. I shot this video around the end of April toward middle of May, and I got to experience both the full bloom and the bittersweet goodbye to the petals. The Museum of Edinburgh, which also conveniently sits right over one of Outlander's filming locations, is a must-see. Royal Mile has a handful of free-to-enter museums, but I think this one is great if you want a quick insight into the area's history. It goes into detail about how Canongate, the bottom part of Royal Mile, used to be a fancy area beyond the walls of medieval Edinburgh, which is why you can still spot many very mansion-y buildings along the way. Touristy experience? Perhaps, but I think it would be a pity to avoid trying fudge while on Royal Mile. You might notice that the shop got a little facelift recently. Very shiny, very now, but you will still get the same old wide selection of delectable flavors. Personally, I think fudge goes amazingly with tea because it is basically like a cube of sweet cream. Let me know in the comment section if you're a fudge fan. Chesil's Court, another oasis of serenity for you to enjoy your book or fudge or ice cream. Not only a home to this pleasant patch of green, but also this secluded garden with a picnic table and an Instagram famous heart vine house. Just outside of it, you will find a new addition to the area's food scene, Black Grape. I recommend this wine bar for drinks and small plates. Their wine list is really well curated, but personally I tend to go for the cocktails. Also, if you don't order any food at all, try to at least go for the brioche with garlic butter, because this is gonna be the best garlic bread of your life. place has locations all over Edinburgh, and they sometimes call this small shop their picnic parlour, which is exactly what you should use it for. Everyone who came in was asking for the scones, so I'm guessing those must be really good. Pigs is a Spanish tapas haunt, also good for a quick lunch if you're fed up with haggis, beef and potatoes, if that is even an option. And they do takeaway too. Okay, we're gonna scoot to the right here and uncover an attraction I am extremely fond of, and forever upset that more people, especially locals, don't know about it. It's the Chocolatarium, Edinburgh's own chocolate museum. A place to learn everything about the ethics of cocoa trade, the techniques used in chocolate making, and also a very in-depth tasting, which arguably is the best part. I might just be a huge chocolate nerd, but I just love revisiting this place. I've already been 3 times and it's so fun every time. Everyone who works here is so knowledgeable, so you can really hit them with your most niche cues about the world of chocolate. I find the best approach is to get an advance booking, but you can also just pop in and peruse their chocolate shop. In my opinion, this is the best curated store in Edinburgh to get your paws on some bean-to-bar treasures. Once you make it back up to Royal Mile, I'm gonna take you off it again, straight away. Yeah, I know, technically not on the Royal Mile, but trust me, this is such a special little store. Moo Pie Gelato. Get your butt over here to try some of the creamiest, dreamiest gelato in town. My pro tip is to have it in a shot of espresso as an affogato. Their coffee is a delicious brew from North Berwick, and its acidity pairs oh so well with the not overly sweet but extremely creamy gelato. Okay, that finally takes us to what was historically actual Edinburgh. We're gonna cross over the imaginary border of the historical Edinburgh's walls and end up in an area that is a lot more heavy on the souvenir shops than Canongate. But that's okay, there are still little gems to find around here. This is also the part of Royal Mile where you can visit the Scottish Storytelling Centre, which features one of Edinburgh's most affordable spots to try haggis, the Haggis Box. Check them out in this video. And just behind the centre is Trunk's Close, which takes you to the Sandeman House Garden, another secret garden for all of you looking for a quiet place to munch on your Boots meal deal. Museum of Childhood is a unique insight into the history of growing up in Scotland, especially fun if you drag your designated Scottish friend or father-in-law with you. It's a free little activity to consider, especially if the weather doesn't quite live up to your, frankly, misguided expectations. Further up, we cross the North Bridge and enter the busiest part of the mile. This is the area that can get positively zen-crushing, especially during the festival season, but now in May it was still kind of doable. A dinner tip for meat eaters? Barbecue. This is one of Edinburgh's best barbecue places, and honestly also an incredible value for money, especially considering where you're eating. I recommend visiting in 3 or 4 people and sharing the big platter with a side or two. We're getting closer to St. Giles Cathedral, but before we have a peek inside, let me recommend Mercat Tours, who are named after the Mercat Cross. They do your classic ghosty historical tours, but often go beyond these themes with special themed tours like their latest one about the witch trials. So if you've done your regular history tour before and would like to level up a bit, check out their website for all the bookings. Luckin Booths is one of the only places with a proper sun trap patio seating, if not the only one on Royal Mile. We tried it for the first time while shooting this video because the weather was just so good and we loved our mains. The menu caters to all sorts of tastes and preferences, admittedly at a fairly tourist-centric pricing, but the vitamin D was worth it. St. Giles Cathedral has been a working church for almost 900 years now. I love visiting, even if it's just to awe at the stained glass work or the ever so impressive cobalt blue ceiling. But it's also worth looking out for the free classical concerts that take place here. You can find all the events on their website. Yeah, also don't forget to avoid the heart of Midlothian unless you want to step into some fresh Scots spit. Crossing George IV Bridge, we shall head to one of the attractions that are free with a Scottish National Trust membership, Gladstone's Land. This is one of the oldest buildings on the Royal Mile and an absolute treat if you want to know more about how regular people used to live in this area. Each floor is set up to represent a different era and tenant, and at the bottom you'll find a little ice cream parlor with a sit-down coffee shop, which honestly might be one of the quietest cafes along the mile. Fun fact, the top floor of Gladstone's Land can actually be rented out as a holiday home. And right next to it, Edinburgh's Pub of the Year 2023. This is an award given by CAMRA, the campaign for real ale, and is a good North Star for anyone looking for a great quality traditional British pub. I loved how cozy it felt, and it even has some outside seating. Riddle's Court is a beautiful wee nook opposite of Gladstone's Land, another photo opportunity to not miss. The interior is mostly used for events now, but you can also rent out a room there to stay during your Edinburgh visit. And now the grand finale, the iconic, the unconquered, the star of Edinburgh's skyline, the Edinburgh Castle. If you're curious about how to prepare for your visit of Edinburgh Castle, why not watch my video from last year when I visited Edinburgh Castle for the first time ever? The time has come for me to interview a friend who has actually spent some time living in this area. In this case, it is Petra, who you might know from me telling you about Petra being basically the sole reason why I am here. She is the friend that I moved here with and I cohabitated with for just over a year. And then after we stopped living together, she moved here to the area of Royal Mile. So, in 3 words, how would you describe living around Royal Mile?
Convenient, busy, and vomity.
Oh. I think that a lot of people probably think that because this is, the old town, the beautiful, kind of very architecturally, aesthetically pleasing area-ish, they probably imagine that this is quite an expensive place to live. Is it?
Depends. Where I lived, it really wasn't expensive. We had a 2-bedroom flat. Bear in mind, this was in 2012 to 2014. We paid about 750 quid a month for 3 people, which is a lot less than I'd imagine you pay now, but it was still a lot less than you paid in other parts of, posh parts of Edinburgh. So it really wasn't that bad. And because 2 of us were students, we had a discount on council tax, which helps a lot.
What would you say is the biggest pro of living in this area?
I mean, you're really close to pretty much everything that matters in the city. You are close to the museums, the castle, the bars, the restaurants, the station. You can really easily get to the airport. Everything is super close, and even the things that are not in the center, you are pretty much within walking distance. Most buses go to Princess Street, so you're close to Princess Street, or they come even closer to you if they go on the bridges. That's North Bridge and South Bridge for those of you who are not local, and George IV Bridge. And basically everything is really convenient, and you don't have to worry about do I need to get an Uber home because I live on the outskirts or in the suburbia because the buses are finished.
Is it annoying to be basically living on a hill and always have to be walking up
You'll
or down?
become so much fitter, so much quicker than you would ever expect. In a way, if you do go kind of north to Leith, to the coast, or Portobello, then yes, if you're walking home, there is a big hill on the way. Well, big hill. It's not that big once you get used to it. Just be prepared to get sweaty a lot. However, from loads of other angles, because I lived in the middle of the Royal Mile, lots of other angles, you're actually going downhill or flat, so it's not really as bad as you think. But I think for both of us, because we had that hill between us, the perception was very much there is a hill, you live halfway up a hill.
Yes, this is the hill that during the lockdowns I would use it as my gym. It's just that was the only place that I felt like I can go for a proper walk. And
I mean, that's what we used as a gym when we first moved here, because we were too poor to have a gym membership. So
yes. And
that's
also,
how we got fit.
Also, the Starbucks on Royal Mile was our internet.
Yes.
Stop.
Oh my god. I forgot about that.
we were such povos.
We were the povoist of povos. She didn't let me put the heater on for a long time.
Well, and look where we are now again. It's kind of full circle. Not using
now
the heater
we have big
again.
jobs with big money, and we still couldn't afford the fucking heating. Sorry.
If you had to go in the opposite, in that mental route, and tell me what's the worst thing about living on Royal Mile.
Well, how long do you have? No, just kidding. So I would say one of the things is, so we lived in a close just off the Royal Mile, which is actually quite wide, so it's quite popular for people going from the Royal Mile to the train station. And
it was behind a Pizza Express?
Pizza Express.
It smelled quite nice when there
Actually, no,
wasn't people just relieving themselves of like
think-
urinary needs.
Oh yeah, going home from a job when you're super hungry and you know that dinner's not going to be ready for another hour, but I can smell the Pizza Express kitchen. Oh man, that was not easy. Another thing, this is very specific to where we lived. That's not to do with the Royal Mile. I think this is kind of relevant to the question about posh / not posh. Is we had an open staircase, like the stairs in the tenement, and we had lots of pigeons there, and the pigeons constantly trying to nest on our doorstep, on our like doormat. And we tried everything: bleach, chili powder, kicking them gently because I'm not a monster, but like they just decided that was the nest.
Gentle kick.
That was the nest, and they are gonna stay there. So that was fun. But other than that, yeah, it's a very busy area, and obviously people do like going out and drinking in kind of the Royal Mile vicinity, which is great, and you know, that's what it should be. It's not great when you wake up at 7 a.m. to go to work, and then there's a man sleeping on your doorstep. Not your actual doorstep, like to your flat, but to like the tenement. Or there's a massive pile of vomit. Also, Edinburgh city centre does have quite a lot of like habitual drug users just randomly falling asleep places, which, you know, it's a whole other conversation, but it's not amazing when you wake up again, you know, bleary-eyed going to uni or something, and you're like, oh god, what do I do with this? So I think that's the worst part of it, is that you do get a lot of noise. So if you have, you know, 9 to 5 job or a shift job that you have to get up early in the morning and you really appreciate your sleep, it gets really noisy. And we did not have double glazing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was because it's not allowed on that specific building. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it was a listed building, although I'm not sure. However, it's quite uncommon in these flats in this area that, you know, to have double glazing, because they're mostly rented to students or like temporary people who are here for the summer, or they're owned by rich people who don't live here and they don't care.
So I'm guessing this is not the best area for like a young family to start nesting.
Yeah, this is a place where you want to live when you're like start uni or you're in your early 20s. That's what I would say. However, I lived here in my early 20s. I was 23 or 24 around that time, and I was fine. And then I moved back to the...
You're still here.
Yeah, still alive. But then I moved to the same neighborhood where we lived together. And...
I know. Well, that's the video that we made last month about Abbey Hill and Meadowbank, where Petra still lives there now. So
best area ever.
Yeah, if you want to watch what it's like to live in Abbey Hill / Meadowbank, watch this video. Do it. Or
Absolutely
else.
do it. And, you know, don't all move en masse, because I want my neighborhood to be nice, but also do move because it's the best.
Okay, well, thank you so much for answering my questions about this area.
Anytime. You have to ask me more questions.
Well, you have to move to some new areas, so I can invite you to more of these. This is very convenient.
Well, yeah, I could do like the tour of the breweries of Edinburgh for you instead. Well, that was easy. Lovely.
And so, after multiple days of coming back and forth to Royal Mile and getting more shots and remembering that there are more places that we want to feature in this video, we finally made it to the top of Royal Mile, to the castle. And you are probably noticing that around me is this humongous ugly monster of a construction, which is the kind of temporary stadium that they put up every year for the military tattoo. This is like my top pet peeve here in Edinburgh. They always start building it in May. It's really only in use in August. In my opinion, it like ruins the whole skyline, and I am very visually frustrated by it. And I mean, you can tell, like even at night you can't really walk up to the castle, and during the day it kind of messes with the views of the city. Well, anyway, let me know in the comments below if you also very much dislike this. Anyway, I think one thing that I'm gonna end on is that I have really underestimated the amount of stuff that is happening on and around Royal Mile. I have tried to build this video around things that are just like strictly on Royal Mile, and honestly from day one I was already stepping away from this plan. You know, I had to mention places like Moo Pie Gelato and the Chocolatarium, and once you start doing that, like it's a slippery slope. So yeah, I really hope that I did my best to introduce you to some of my favorites. Obviously I couldn't visit everything that is to do on Royal Mile, and the people who I spoke to while I was working on this video, who were kind of curiously asking like, what's your next video? Whenever I mentioned that I'm doing like a guide about Royal Mile, it was always kind of like a letdown for them. A lot of people thought, I kind of avoid that area, it's just full of tourist traps. And I had to urge them, like, that's not true. There's like all of these places that are amazing. And you know, then you start talking and you both realize, yeah, there's actually a lot of small businesses that really deserve the attention and your custom. Obviously there are also tourist traps. I would say that, you know, there's a whole plethora of tourist shops, especially souvenir shops owned by the same people that you know, are not the best places to support. If you want to buy souvenirs, I always recommend popping into one of the Scottish Design Exchange shops. Actually, one of the Scottish Design Exchange shops is on Royal Mile. It's in the Tronkirk, but the one where you can buy my wares, it's on George Street. Also, you can always buy my souvenirs on my Etsy shop, link in the doobly-doo. Okay, that's it. I loved this. This was really fun, really exhausting. It took me so much time, so I really hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below if any of your favorites were mentioned in this video, and if there are any places that you didn't know existed, or if there are places that you really thought would be in this video and you really want people to know about them and I somehow managed to ignore them, probably on accident, or I just didn't have any more time. In that case, let everyone know in the comment section as well. And don't forget that if you're missing my face or if you want to shoot me a message, you can always visit me on Instagram under KakiBot for my illustrations and art, or KakiBlog for my photos of my life here in Edinburgh. Okay, that's really it from me for now, and I shall see you soon. Bye.